So now we're making songs about Jesus and whiskey. Let's listen to it first, and then we're going to talk about it.
Jesus and whiskey.
I ain't perfect. I still drink some when I'm hurting. I got my own type of worship. I don't fall down on my knees, but I still believe that God's got my back and I got His. It might not be how Mom thought I live. I need Saturday night till like Sunday morning. From my point of view, they're just that important. And I might get wrong, 'cause that's what I know. But He without sin can go cast the first stone. Little corner booth, little front row church pew. Wherever I go, they're both with me. So I thank God for Jesus and whiskey. No, you probably think I should watch what I say, but I tell the truth at the end of the day. I'm somebody's sister, somebody's mother. It ain't one nor the other. Saturday night, Sunday morning. My point of view, hell, it just as important. I might get drunk, that's what I know. It goes against the first song. Yeah, church pew, wherever I go. I thank God for Jesus and
All right, family, let's talk about it. Today we're talking about a song that has already sparked conversation before many people have had the chance to sit with it. K. Michelle, as you can see, has released a song titled Jesus and Whiskey. Now, for some people, the title alone is enough to make them uncomfortable. Others hear it and immediately assume it's disrespectful. Still, others hear it and think that's probably someone's real life. And maybe that's where we should begin today. Because before we critique the title, perhaps we should ask what story the artist is trying to tell. There's a reason why this song is creating conversation. Let's be honest. Putting the words Jesus and whiskey in the same title is bound to get people's attention. For some believers, it feels irreverent. For others, it feels painfully honest. Without getting lost in the controversy, here's what interests me. The song invites us into a conversation about faith, pain, coping, struggle, and authenticity. Whether you agree with the lyrics or not, one thing is difficult to deny. K. Michelle appears to be telling her truth. And there's something worth discussing about that. Faith journeys are rarely neat. One of the greatest misconceptions in religious communities is that spiritual growth always looks clean. And I know firsthand that it doesn't. Scripture itself is filled with people whose lives were messy. People who loved God while wrestling with addiction. People who trusted God while battling fear. People who prayed while questioning everything. Faith has never been the absence of struggle. It's often the willingness to bring your struggle into God's presence. Perhaps that's why so many people connect with songs like this, not because they celebrate brokenness, but because they recognize it. There are three critical things that I want us to consider as we slow down and think through this together. The first thing is that authenticity can be uncomfortable. See, sometimes we confuse honesty with rebellion. When someone publicly admits, I'm still trying to figure this thing out, it can make religious communities very uncomfortable. But authenticity has always been the beginning of transformation. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot grow from a story you won't tell. Whether someone sings about prayer, addiction, loneliness, heartbreak, or healing, guess what? Their honesty deserves to be heard before it is judged. That doesn't mean we agree with every conclusion. No, it means we respect the courage it takes to tell the story. The second thing I want us to consider is that testimony doesn't always sound like a sermon. Many of us expect every spiritual story to sound polished, but testimonies often begin in places that are raw. Some people tell their stories from a church pew. Others tell it through poetry, others through therapy or through music. Artists often process their lives publicly. And sometimes what sounds offensive to one listener sounds like survival to another. Maybe this song isn't trying to preach, maybe it's trying to process. And there's a difference. The last thing I want us to consider is that grace makes room for honest conversations like this. One of the questions I ask myself is this: have we created enough space in faith communities for people to tell the truth? Or have we created spaces where people only feel accepted if they sound spiritually perfect? Because if people can't be honest about their struggles in church, they'll tell the world instead. Now, grace isn't agreement. Grace is creating room for people to wrestle honestly. I want us to remember that Jesus consistently met people where they were before he tried to change them. He listened before he corrected. He connected before he challenged. And perhaps there's wisdom there for us today. I have a word for the church. To those in the Christian community, I would offer this gentle reminder. Not every song with the name Jesus in it is intended to be worship music. Sometimes it's autobiography. Sometimes it's lament. Sometimes it's confession. Sometimes it's someone trying to make sense of life. We don't have to celebrate every lyric, no, but we should be careful about condemning every story. Because the gospel itself is full of people whose stories sounded controversial before they sounded redeemed. I also have a word for artists out there. If you're an artist listening today, thank you for telling your truth. See, art has a way of always helping humanity to wrestle with questions that oftentimes sermons alone cannot answer. The responsibility of the listener is not simply to react, it's also to discern, to ask questions, to listen deeply, and then decide thoughtfully. I have a question for you today. And I want to leave you with this if you're a Christian or not a Christian, or artist or not an artist. When someone tells you an honest story about their spiritual journey, even if it makes you uncomfortable, are you listening for reasons to judge or opportunities to understand? And perhaps here's an even deeper question: can we make room for someone's honesty without abandoning our own convictions? I want us to sit with that today. Family, thank you for joining me at my desk. I'm Dr. Dandridge, and I want to hear your thoughts. Can a controversial song like this still spark meaningful spiritual reflection? Also, where do you draw the line between artistic expression and matters of faith? Let's continue the conversation in the comments. Until next time, I want you all to stay thoughtful, stay grounded, and above all, stay willing to listen before you judge. Peace and blessings.